Welcome back to another episode of Diamond Podcast. I'm your host, local real estate agent, Alfredo Diamond. Welcome to the show. Today I have a very special guest. We've been talking about this for a hot second, and it's a pleasure to have him here. But just want to introduce AJ Sickman, city attorney and partner BBFCS Law Office, and also owner of Abstracts of Richmond Title Company. That's a mouthful. So I just want to
It is.
Hey, AJ, thanks for being here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I was thinking about this and kind of checking out some of your other episodes, and you're getting a lot of buzz. And so somebody referred to you as kind of the Joe Rogan of Wayne County. So I think I'm the one that is getting a special invite and the benefit of being here. So I appreciate it.
Oh, wow. That's a lot there. Damn, means a lot, man. Thank you. Definitely trying. All right. So, AJ, just want to go into a little bit about yourself. So kind of tell me where you're from. Just want to get to know you a little better and see if you want to share some insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from Richmond, born and raised, graduated from Richmond High School in 2004, and then went to Ball State University in Muncie, actually for a teaching degree, and we can kind of unpack that more as we go along.
Yeah.
But then decided to go to law school, and my now wife became my fiance during that time, and she really wanted to be back in Richmond, and so that's how we ended up back here at the end of that process.
So you're from Richmond. What was it like? What was it like for you growing up here in Richmond?
I had a great experience. I love Richmond. I like to think of myself as an advocate for the community. I know you certainly are. And so I try to instill positivity in every capacity that I can imagine. Because as you know, as everybody knows, you just turn on the news, whether it's local or national, it's permeated by negativity. And I never want to see that for this community. And so, I had a great experience coming up in Richmond, which is why I wanted to come back and hopefully provide some value now that I'm in among the working class.
Yeah. So Ball State, so that's probably the only place you lived, probably Muncie?
Muncie, and then in northern Indiana and Valparaiso for law school, because Ball State doesn't have a law school. So, I lived in Muncie for 4 years, got my education degree, became a licensed teacher at Ball State. And it's kind of funny, I wasn't ever thinking about becoming an attorney. It wasn't until my senior year in college. I was in an upper-level policy-making course, and so there's a lot of law woven into that, educational law. And one day my professor says, hey, can you stay after? So I said, yeah, that's fine. And she said, don't take this the wrong way, but you're in the wrong profession. She said, you're too interested in this other stuff, the law side, than to teach. All I knew was that I wanted to hopefully provide value to other people. And I saw teaching as a great way to do that, and I still think that way. My wife does it every day. She's a teacher, significant, important job. But that comment got me thinking about other paths that ultimately kind of manifested in me taking a closer look at the law.
So do you think that that trait you have in you that you wanted to teach, does that translate over into your current profession, being an attorney?
Yeah, I think that it does. That's not a common undergraduate major heading into law school. You see a lot of pre-law or poli-sci, things like that. But if you have a passion for trying to help others and you want to bring value to the people around you, I think that translates in both of those professions. But I was just more interested in the legal part of it. I always say, people ask you about your job, and the best way that I can describe it is, every morning you come in and all of the jigsaw pieces are laid out across the table. I have to figure out how to put that puzzle together, but just within the confines of the law. And so I enjoy that process. You have to be creative, have to be willing to think outside the box. And so when I could combine those two things, that profession made sense to me.
Man, I've got so much to ask you about, but first I want to go a little bit deeper dive into transitioning from law school into finding a place to work. I mean, what was that like? Any challenges that you faced coming out of law school?
Yes. However, my journey relative to some others, some of my classmates, and just kind of what you hear across the country would be considered easy as a result of kind of being in the right place at the right time. So I'm the beneficiary of just that luck. But when I was applying to law schools, made the decision to go, I reached out. Well, no, strike that. They reached out to me. My mom ran into, who's my partner now, Rick Boston,
Okay.
at a grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and she knew him a little bit, and said, "Well, my son is planning on going to law school," and he said, "Well, tell him to give me a call because we're looking to expand. We need more attorneys."
Wow.
And so I did, and I met with all of the attorneys in my firm before I stepped foot day one in a law school environment, and they said, "Look, just do your best, get good grades, and then let's stay in contact. And then if we have something available this summer, then we'll provide you with the clerkship, and you can come in and kind of learn." Law is kind of like medicine; you learn it all through the books. But the hands-on application and practice, that's another learning experience.
Yeah.
So all law students try to find that summer gig to be able to say, hey, I got some real-world experience. So I did that with the firm after my first year of law school. Went back for my second year, and then that summer I did it again. And then my third year, we started talking about, well, what does this relationship look like, and do you have any interest on moving back to Richmond? And as I noted earlier, my wife, she really wanted to be back in Richmond, and it's the best decision we ever made. But candidly, I wasn't thinking that along the way, at least not very seriously, because when you're 25 and you're looking at these jobs, Chicago looks attractive, Indianapolis looks attractive, but she's so rooted with family, as am I, that said, well, let's give this a shot. So coming into that, the challenges are that you are brand new. Now, there's some name recognition because you're from here, so people know you, but you don't have that book of business. And I'm sure you can attest, when you're first starting out in the real estate industry, you have to build that up.
Right.
So you have to be willing to work hard. You have to get good results. You have to be able to deal with people well. And it's kind of, again, I'll make an analogy to your industry. It can feel feast or famine sometimes. You either have the business or you don't.
Right.
And so there's that built-in adversity, and some people get over that hump, and others don't and realize this wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Because there is a business element to this job. It's not just practicing law. You have to develop that book of business to be able to eat, frankly. And I've been very fortunate.
Is that a big part of your business? A lot of repeat customers, like certain industries, maybe real estate. Is that a big part of your book of business?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. I had a client call me just last week, and she was probably one of the first 5 that signed up with me. So this was over 10 years ago, 13 at this point, I think, and said, hey, I had this other thing come up. Can you help me with it? And it's like, I can't believe I've been doing it this long.
Wow.
They say time flies.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of repeat, but the amount of calls that we get a day, I mean, it's really pretty unreal.
Oh, yeah, I
mean,
believe it.
I could hire 5 more lawyers and still have to turn away business.
I couldn't imagine. That's one of my things, too, how you manage it all. But before that, I could tell how passionate you are still about your profession. What was that like? I got 2 instances I want you to share, but talk about that feeling. How did it feel when you finally, like, man, I can't believe I passed? Because to me, what you did and what you went through at going through school and becoming an attorney, that seems very overwhelming, or like there's a lot there. So what was that like when you finally, like, man, I did this? What was that feeling like?
It's hard to articulate that. They tell you before you start law school, if you don't think about quitting at least once or twice, you're not doing it right, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I just treated it like a job. I thought I'm going into law school. I'm 22 years old. My alternative is I would be working 8 hours a day somewhere. So commit that 8 hours to this process. Now, that process can be a little bit more tedious because that's 8 hours of either sitting in class or reading case law. You're reading books. That's how you learn the law. And then when you get to finals time, I mean, there aren't grades along the way. You take 1 exam per class. So you either
There's no grades. You either got it or you don't.
That's right. At the
Wow.
end. So it's important to really be diligent along the way throughout the class as it progresses through the semester. And then I treated the bar exam the same way. I had the summer to study, and you get up, you start cracking the bar review materials at 8 in the morning, and then I would shut it down at 5 and try to do something else to take my mind off of it. So you do that for about 3 months, and then the exam is a 2-day exam, and you go into it feeling comfortable because you committed the time that was necessary, but At the same time, there are lots of people that don't pass that exam on the first try.
Yeah.
They make the statement to you, don't feel bad, before, and they should never do this in this exam, but they did. But they said, look to the person to your right, look to the person to your left. One of them is not going to pass this exam. And you're in a room with, hundreds and hundreds of people. So it is. It's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
But then when you get that news, weight is lifted.
Yeah. So you got the heavy lifting off your plate there, and you got through that. Mm-hmm. So tell me, you land a position, and it's like there's a common theme with the guests on the show, including myself. A lot of the success comes into, man, being in the right place at the right time, and just you've impressed someone by being a good person, and they're going to help you or support you in your next level. So, man, we see a common theme with that.
Yeah.
So when you think about you're in your position, you're with your company, and you're starting out as you're not a partner then yet.
Correct.
So tell me about that. What did it take to get to that point where did someone offer you a partner as being a partner, or you knew there was a goal and you achieved it? Tell me what was that like and how you got there.
Yep. So that was the goal from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So you start as what we call an associate in our industry, and so essentially you are an employee of the firm.
Okay.
And it is your job. You have your own clients, but you can also do work for the partners of the firm. So if they have a project that they could use an extra set of hands on, they can come to the associate and say, "I need you working on this." And so the goal, and some people like staying in that capacity and don't want to deal with the sometimes difficulties associated with owning and running a business. That was never my goal. As we were talking before we started, I think we share that in common. The goal was always, I kind of want to work for myself.
Right.
And this would allow me to do that.
Right.
And so really, the partners look at it over time. They review your progress, earnings, your sort of how you're instilled within the community. And at some point, you provide enough value to the firm that they do offer you that partnership. And then you begin the process of buying effectively shares of a company similar to that, and you become an owner along with my other partners. So that happened, I'd say, 4 or 5 years in to my practice. So my plan is to remain in that role as long as I can.
So 4 years ago or so, you became partner. So, I mean, you've got a lot of things going on. You're also the city attorney.
Yeah.
So before I jump into that, though, I want to take a step back. What's a typical day look like for you? Because I would imagine you have all these clients. You've got these repeat clients. You got calls. You get the city stuff. How does AJ manage his day-to-day operations?
So I have a plan in my head every morning what I'm going to do.
Okay. Starts the night before?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sometimes in the middle of the night, you wake up thinking about these things. And I prioritize it.
Yeah.
One of my partners likes to say, we have to triage. You got to tend to those hemorrhaging the most sometimes. So no matter what my plan is, it rarely goes according to that plan.
Right.
You come in and there's an emergency X and then emergency Y, and I have to prioritize. With the city kind of inserted into that mix, it has its own sets of legal issues that I have to attend to. You probably heard Mike Tyson say before, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
so every morning it kind of feels like I get punched in the mouth, and I got to figure out how I'm going to be flexible, sidestep that, and then help the people that need help. But yeah, conceptually, I have ideas of what I'm going to be doing that day. Try to get to those things, but you have to be reactive too.
Yeah, and that's a skill in itself, being able to pivot. On something urgent come up, or something that you got to jump on right now. Shift your day and manage and prioritize, and that's a whole nother skill set. Man, great for you, brother. So the city attorney, how did that come about? So I believe that's a voted on position, right?
Well, it's appointed by the mayor.
Okay, I got you.
And it has to be approved by the Board of Works and Public Safety.
Okay.
So my predecessor, Walt Chittister, who was my partner, he retired recently. But in 2016, he approached me, and that's when Dave Snow was elected as mayor, and said, look, I don't know how much longer I want to do this because it does take a lot of your time. It's pretty demanding. And he said, I think you would be, or you kind of have the right temperament for that job. And so then we started having talks with the administration, and then all agreed that, I would be installed into that role in 2017, and then have continued that role, obviously, with the new administration under Mayor Oler. So it's a contract with the city. There's a retainer that's paid, and then, litigation and some other services are kind of addressed separately. But yeah, that retainer basically says if there's a legal issue, then you get to pick up the phone and call me.
Man, that's very interesting. So you've got the city you're dealing with. That's a lot of responsibility. You've got you're running a business and a business. Running your part of your practice. That's a lot of responsibility. Tell me something. Tell me a win that really just stands out from either your experience being a city attorney or being your role at your day-to-day operations at your business.
From a very high level, it all feels like a win because I'm able to, again, I feel as though I'm providing that value to the community in some shape or fashion. So I would say that the city representation, when I look back on my career, will be one of the highlights because I got to be involved with my community in a way that I otherwise couldn't. As far as the business is concerned, we really have a great group of people, have a great staff, and so you don't want to often overthink about your successes. You're trying to look forward. You want to continue to grow it because there's a lot of people that count on the partners of that firm continuing to be sustainable. And we have a lot of people that have been with us for decades.
Wow. What really, is there one or two things that you're really excited about going in happening in our community right now? I mean, you're very involved. You're involved with the chamber. We cross paths several times a month.
Yeah.
I mean, is there one or two things you're really excited about, maybe the direction the city's going in, or some projects? Could you share some things like that?
Well, as you know, sitting in these meetings with me, we have been the fortunate beneficiaries of an influx of some financial support through some grants. And so seeing that investment in the community generally is exciting. I mean, we have a lot of things going on right now, but that quality of place, we hear that term a lot. I think that's important because we always have the conversation, we have it in chamber meetings. How do we either attract new, younger people into the community, or how do we retain them after they graduate high school or college? And I think quality of place is an important point to kind of keep at the forefront for that purpose. And, the collective people that are trying to champion that and achieve that goal have their mind focused on that. And so that's what's most exciting to me right now.
Are there any challenges that the city's facing that maybe you could share, maybe one or two that you talk about that's really kind of maybe you really got your hands on, you're trying to resolve? Anything you want to share or highlight that you're dealing with right now?
There will always be challenges, and I deal with different legal issues that can be challenging. It's hard to really get into those in detail because of confidentiality issues. But some of the stuff that you may see play out in local media, you're constantly trying to balance that, keep all the balls in the air. But the challenge is dealing with all of that while still maintaining that Richmond is a positive place to be. It's a good place to be. It's a great place to raise a family. And the challenge is keeping that in the forefront, especially when you look at social media and those things. You just wish the complaints would stop, I'll be honest, because I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest challenge is just sort of changing that collective tide to say, let's focus on the good, because there's a lot of it here.
Yeah, yeah. If you could say, you know what, done deal, this is how it's going to be in a perfect world, I mean, where would you like to see either Richmond in the next 3 to 5 years, continue to thrive, projects completed, that big focus on attracting, retaining local talent. I mean, what does that vision look like for you?
Well, I think you touched on all the main points. We have, through the EDC, attracting major industry, doing a great job of that.
Yeah.
Chamber's doing an excellent job representing its members. So that business component, I just want to see that same trajectory. Let's stay on it.
Yeah.
Because we are on the right one.
Yeah.
And I think that will have a ripple effect, sort of that trickle-down approach where if we can do that, then you're going to see us retaining more young people. And then in conjunction with that, that quality of place component. So if I think you can kind of look at that as a triangle, if we can connect those three dots, we're exactly where I want to be in 3 to 5 years.
That's awesome. Great way to put that, AJ. So shifting a little gears a little bit towards my industry, your company is involved in title work and things like that. One of the things that maybe we can share a little bit of insight, because one of the things that I deal with, regularly is helping people navigate. When someone passes, they've left the property.
Yep.
I've seen it where often than not, more times than not, where the person that passed away did not establish a will or set their property up in the right, maybe a trust, and then properties are held up with probate, things like that. Can you share some insight, things that people should probably do now that own property that want to leave to their loved ones, or what they wish after they're gone? Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I know this is something you and I have talked about by virtue of our respective businesses, and you've helped me out with some clients after people pass away.
Yep.
So we work together on that front, but it's good for people to have at least a basic understanding. So if you die without a will, that's called dying intestate.
Okay.
And so the state of Indiana will dictate where your assets go if you don't have a will. And so it's different based on your family situation. You may have a wife, you may have a subsequent wife, and have children with another person. You may only have children. You may have nieces and nephews but no children. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Indiana tells you how your assets are going to flow in those situations.
How long, if it's caught up in that, how long could that take for the Indiana to say, okay, here's what's happening next? I mean, what does that look like?
So you would go to a lawyer and say, look, I think I may be one of the beneficiaries of John's estate, and so I would like you to open a probate estate, and then it becomes a lawyer's job to kind of untangle all of that and sweep in the assets, pay the debts, and then pay out to the respective beneficiaries. I can say that in one sentence. It takes months.
Okay? Wow. Yeah.
It takes months.
Man.
And that's why it's important to have a will. If you have a will, then your assets, particularly in your example, real estate, is going to transfer to the people that you set forth in your will as beneficiaries. Now, that may still, if the gross value of your probate estate is in excess of $100,000, you still have to go through probate. So what we're seeing more and more of now are people saying, how do I just transfer my house to my kids without it getting tied up in probate? Well, you can do a transfer on death deed right now. It's just a new deed that says, upon my death, this property will go to my son and my daughter in 50-50 equal shares, and then that will automatically transfer to them upon the death of the person signing the will without the need for probate.
Okay.
So those are conversations we're having, and probably good conversations you can have with your clients as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. Because I've seen it where it's been some tough ones. Where there was cousins and their kids involved. Like it was kind of crazy. And I've seen it where people were like, they just don't want to deal with it. And those properties you probably see that where they just sit. I mean, they end up going to like tax sale or anything like.
That's kind of the last step of the process. And
really?
So I have some that I'm dealing with right now.
Really?
We don't want it. Their rental is not in great shape. They're really hard to sell. I got a mortgage on one of them. Do I just let it go back to the bank? Is there enough money otherwise in the estate to pay this mortgage? And even if there is, what am I going to do with this property? And then it may just be that someone says, I'm not messing with it. Don't pay the taxes, let it go to tax sale. I'm not advocating that, but it does happen.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of trends are you seeing right now, whether real estate related to your business, the city? What kind of trends are you seeing with law associated to your day-to-day business?
Staying with the real estate discussion, as an owner of Abstracts of Richmond, I've seen the market slow considerably over the last couple of years. I presume that's a function of where interest rates are right now, as well as housing stock. And so I'll create a nexus between that idea and the City of Richmond. People who follow city government have seen within the last few months a push for developers to try to provide additional housing. Now, there are people that come out on the pro side of that, and we had people come to the council meeting when the developer was trying to get that across the finish line that were talking about perceived negatives associated with that. I don't wade into the pros and cons with council. They're my client. They're elected officials. They have to make that decision, not me. I keep it legal. But I'm not afraid to say it with you here today. I'm an advocate for it. I
Yeah.
want to see that more housing, because if we connect those dots I was talking about earlier, and we start bringing people back, they have to have somewhere to live.
Right.
And right now, that's difficult. So that's a trend that I'm seeing, as I'm sure you probably are as well.
Absolutely. You can articulate that better than me. So talk about that. What, the new housing development, I know there was pushback originally. It seems like we're getting some traction with that. Can you kind of talk about your opinion on the community impact that's going to have if that comes through?
I think it'll be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I have conversations with REIT officials, and they express to me that it can be difficult to bring in new physicians or nurse practitioners or nurses or other administrators because some of these higher earning level jobs, they're in a market for a home that we really just can't support very well right now. I'm not saying we can't; those homes do come up, but when you look at this development that's going to be built, I mean, you're going to immediately satisfy that need for a lot of employees. And I'm using REIT as an example, but there are plenty of other industries, Belden, other large corporations, where that there is a need, and I think that this development and hopefully future developments are going to meet that need.
Yeah. I got two clients right now where they're professionals relocating to Richmond, and coming from where they're from, there's a lot of development, newer homes, and the price range they're in. It's like it's tough to find. You've got a lot of professionals that work here in Richmond, and they're spending their money and they're living in Indianapolis, making a commute or working remotely. I mean, that housing, I think it would have a huge impact on our community.
Well, I'll use my brother as an example. He's an engineer with Cisco Systems. He lives outside of Indianapolis, works remotely, wants to move back here, has for years, can't find the home. So now he's switched his mentality to trying to find land to build on, but he doesn't really want to do it. He said, I wish the home was there. I want to be in Richmond.
Right.
But he just hasn't been able to find that house yet.
AJ, it's been a pleasure, man. And wrapping up, if there's anyone out there that you can think of that has provided support for you or been a fan for you over the years and seeing you where you are today, who would you give a shout out to today and why?
First and foremost, my wife, Lindsay. She helped me through law school. It was almost like she was participating along with me. I joke with people, but I don't say it jokingly. I think at the time, she probably could have passed the bar exam as well because she spent so much time helping me study and keeping me accountable. So first and foremost to her. And then I always say, I stand on the shoulders of the gentlemen that came before me in my firm. They made it so much easier because they had that firm established in Richmond. It was respected, and I was fortunate enough to join that, and I've learned from them. They've been like mentors, and now I'm in a position to hopefully pay that back and mentor the younger people that are coming up behind me.
Wow, that's amazing. AJ, you're certainly an inspiration, someone that I love talking to and getting to know, and I look forward to see you be success and continue to grow. Thank you for being here. That's another show, Diamond Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend.